Hey guys, and welcome back to another video. We are talking about Samurai 8 Chapter 12, and honestly, this is probably my favorite chapter to date. Things have really been kind of ramping up in the last couple of chapters, and I basically, personally, went from being like, yeah, it's an interesting, world and characters and whatever, but I wasn't totally sold to, this is honestly so really freaking great. So to start off, we got some color pages, and they were really well done. Ata shown really kind of intimidating, and then some really tough stuff, at least for Hachimaru, with Hachimaru's dad getting slashed in the back protecting him. So after Hachimaru's dad basically takes a big L, Hagamichi jumps into action. He, at this point, is basically like pinned to a wall, so he can't really go anywhere, but he turns his holder and the armor or whatever into a machine gun to try to get Ata away from Hachimaru. And honestly, it's really interesting because, again, you can't forget that this is like a technological society. So there's like science and like more modern things going on. I mean, obviously they're all basically robots anyways. So you can't forget that they do have modern things and they're not just like, oh, samurai swords are their main thing. So guns are definitely up for grabs on this. So Hagamichi is blasting away at Ata, and because he can't, his body's all messed up and he can't do anything from afar necessarily, he ends up detonating one of the swords that he stuck in Hagamichi originally, and that basically puts an end to Hagamichi. He's not dead, I don't think, but he's certainly not going to be too involved at this point. Meanwhile, you have Daruma, who is off to the side. He got messed up from their first encounter and hasn't been able to do anything this entire fight. So he is apparently at 50% capacity as far as healing, but he needs another 10% to be able to just do something. And so he ultimately decides that he's going to go to sleep to kind of speed up the process. And I think he's going to wake up to the battle being over and Hachimaru being super badass. He is definitely going to be surprised with what he wakes up to, because I don't think he's going to be prepared for what's happening. Now, Hachimaru this entire time is basically just grieving over his father. His father's dying right in his own arms, and he ends up having a somewhat of a cliched backflash. It's basically his dad telling him that he needs to be a little tougher and not be so afraid of needles and whatever. And it's a good teaching lesson for him for the future in general, that sometimes you just need to act tough, and then that kind of helps bolster your own confidence and whatnot. Now, it's a little bit of a cliched backflash because it's a plot device used to make the main character finally stand on their own 2 feet, but I think it really works here, especially since they keep cutting in and out to it throughout this entire fight. This memory that Hachimaru had basically makes him snap, and in a good way, because he finally comes to kind of terms with what's going on. And honestly, I really like how they did it, because in the beginning of the flashback, you have Hachimaru's a normal face or whatever, him looking at his dad and grieving over him and looking just kind of dead-eyed, and then on the other side it's him crying as a kid. So I really like the juxtaposition of the two versions of him there, I guess, and then they kind of flip it where it's oh, the young him smiling because that's his dad teaching him, and then him again looking all broken up. So I really like that there's a good duality of his personality, how he's grown and changed. And anyway, he basically snaps, and he ends up telling An to take his dad and get a little bit away, and he apologized to her for the white lies that he told to her, and he's finally ready to stand up and be as tough as he made himself sound originally. Then he proceeds to act super cool, and he takes a stance with his sword, and it's just a really cool battle. It's through all of this that he finally learns why you need to be tough, who you need to be tough for, and that he really has not been acting tough for anybody but himself. He went through his entire life feeling weak, but now that he's got his samurai body, he finally started being able to act really tough, but he was really only doing it selfishly, and because he wanted to have fun and all that, but he's finally learning the real responsibility of what he's got himself into. The entire fight between Hachimaru and Ata at this point, because it's not over yet by any stretch of the imagination, has been really, really good. You get to see Hachimaru, like, so they say experience is key for when you're learning something, and this is 100%. He actually starts learning how to dodge Ata's attacks, although he's not great at it yet because he gets, like, hit a bunch of times. But it's a really cool fight because it's kind of cut in between, like, the backflash again. Like, it's a redo of the backflash that you had earlier in the chapter. But, like, it's really, like, I'm picturing it in my head, like, I can see the flow of the animation and whatever. Like, I can picture how it would go in the anime. And when I can do that with just still panels, it really shows how great of a scene it is. And honestly, there are some really awesome panels in this with just, like, power posing Hachimaru, and, like, even when he's, like, all broken up and, like, Hayataro gets involved, it's like, really, really cool. Kishimoto and Okubo do a really good job of illustrating and laying out this entire battle and making you feel something for Hachimaru and his dad and for An and all the characters that are involved. They do a really great job with this. Now, ultimately, Ata ends up running his sword right into Hachimaru, and they do this, like, right in front of Hachimaru's dad and An, and obviously he's protecting his father and An. So there's definitely some urgency to his sword going right through him, despite him being a samurai. And Ata makes a good point of, like, listen, so samurais do not die from blood loss. They don't die from being, like, cut in half or whatever. They die when their, like, spirit, their mental fortitude gives up. When they give up and they don't have the courage to keep on fighting, that's when they die. And he makes a very long, well, not long, but he makes a good speech about how Hachimaru don't got it, and that he's going to end up dying, and he's going to end up just fading away. And that's when we get a good cut into it with Hachimaru's dad, and he's just like, "Nuh-uh, you're lying, you're wrong." Hachimaru's got all of that in a bag of chips, and that inspires Hachimaru to really get re-energized, and he's smiling because he knows that that's, like, the symbol of, like, being tough or whatever. And in a big stroke, he pushes back Ata in some capacity, and that's the end of the chapter. I'm so freaking excited for the next chapter. I am positive that Daruma's gonna wake up to Hachimaru basically defeating Ata. Maybe he'll have his armor on, and, like, the last time we saw him try to put his armor on, it was, like, ill-fitting, and it was too big for him, and he was squished by it. But maybe in this he'll be able to, like, form it into something more realistic, and he'll just be really cool. Overall, I thought this chapter was great. I'd give it a 5 out of 5. I thought between the actual action and it being cut in between, like, with, like, the backflashes and, like, it's basically a why do we fall situation, like a Batman kind of thing, where you have Hachimaru being broken because his dad is basically dying right in front of him, but then he remembers that, like his dad's inspirational, like, kind of, like, speeches, I guess, in a sense, and that kind of energizes him to fight and to finally gain the courage that maybe he didn't actually have before, and finally stand up to whatever. And he even makes an explanation of, like, he is going to protect the people that are near him and close to him no matter what, and that's just the end of it. So I'm down with Hachimaru like this. If he's going to continue being like this, I am down with him. Well, those are my thoughts on this chapter. What did you guys think? Let me know down below in the comment section. And if you enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a like. I would greatly appreciate it. And if you want to see more from me, make sure to subscribe and ring the bell. That way you'll get all the notifications when I upload. I will see you guys in another video. So long!